The sacred is revealed in the ordinary. There is a beauty in this. But how do we discover the mystery of the sacred in our seemingly mundane existence? Welcome to Revealed, a podcast sponsored by Resurrection Catholic Parish in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Let's join our hosts, Katie McAllister and Tony Pickler, as they explore the lives of people, organizations, and resources that will help us delve into the sacredness of the ordinary.
Well, I am so excited to welcome actually a former student, somebody I taught in first grade, and I have known since she was 5 years old. We welcome Cathy Baeten to our Revealed podcast. Hi, Cathy.
Hi, Miss Mac. Hi, Tony. I'm sorry, Katie.
I didn't realize.
Yes. I'm working on it. It took me about 8 years to get it down to. I said Katie accidentally once, and I kind of shocked myself. But I'm glad to be here.
So Cathy, we're like I said, you were so excited you're here, but can you tell us a little bit about who Cathy is? Who are you?
Yes, let's think about who Cathy is. Well, Cathy, I'm 20 years old. I have been a parishioner at Resurrection since I was born, so 20 years, my whole life. I'm currently a junior at Loyola University in Chicago studying psychology and women and gender studies with a minor in sociology. And I'm also on track to receive my master's in a 5-year accelerated program in international relations.
Wow. So I'm curious, with all of that schooling that you're doing,
yes.
what's your plans for that?
My plans? Honestly, I was trying to make the most out of my education a little early on, and I became really ambitious to make the most out of my experience. And along the way, I did get very frustrated with what exactly my plan was. And eventually I, got in the hang of it. My freshman year of college was online exclusively. And so during that period, I constantly had to remind myself, it's okay if you don't know what you're doing. You're here. You're here right now, and you have time. You have time. You have plenty of time in the world. I started college when I was only 17 years old. I've always been the youngest one of the bunch, and that's one thing I always had to keep telling myself was you have time. And through that I learned, patience really is a virtue. And it got to a point where I was kind of just logging in on my computer, going to class, eating dinner with my family, and doing it all over again, going to sleep, and just repeating that process. And it became really monotonous and kind of felt void of any meaning. And so I'd remind myself why I was sitting at my kitchen table staring at my computer. And I had to remind myself that there's time for things to get better. There's time for me to explore, what really gets me going and what I feel passionate about in my life. And obviously it was hard to do that at my kitchen table, but eventually I was given the opportunity to go to class in person. And through that, I started to really see the joy that I was looking for, and a reminder that patience is worth it. It does pay off. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One of the great things about going to college is to explore.
Oh, yeah.
And going to a city like Chicago,
yes.
I would imagine it's a great opportunity to explore a bigger city than Green Bay. So what's been intriguing for you about Chicago?
Oh, my goodness. Definitely the diversity of people there. My dad was born in Cleveland, so he is of American descent. And my mom immigrated from Indonesia about 20 years ago, and they got married, they had me, and growing up, going to school, it was kind of difficult at times because it was hard to really learn who I was in a place where no one looked like me. Even if I did see other children who were of a different ethnicity, it was still, I would say, a foreign feeling to feel like I really belonged somewhere. And the one thing about Chicago is the second I got there, my first day of classes, I said, yes, I feel like I belong. And truly the diversity is just what has kept me so intrigued with the city. You know, you can go explore certain like neighborhoods in Chicago and find different groups of people who are nothing like you are, and you learn something about them. And even in my classes, there are different students who offer different perspectives and different insights into their lives and like how they've learned what we're all learning, just in a different way. And so the most intriguing thing about Chicago is definitely like how it enhanced my perspective, not only as a student, but as a person.
When you talk about diversity, we have Christmas. As this podcast comes out, it will be in the Christmas season, and New Year's is coming up. Just wondering, is there anything you do special with your family?
Oh my goodness, Christmas time, the holidays are very fun for my family, whether we're in the States or whether we're celebrating with my mom's family overseas. This year we were actually supposed to be overseas, but, you know, due to certain health complications that my mom had, she had open heart surgery 4 weeks ago, so we were unable to go this Christmas, but even still, you know, we still have so much joy and so many things that we can be thankful for. But typically, a typical Christmas that I like to think of when I look back in my childhood is going to Indonesia for Christmas over Christmas break, you know, while I had a break in classes. And the beautiful thing about Christmas there is my family, while the way I may describe it to you may seem divided, it really isn't. My mom's side of the family practices Islam primarily, and then the other half of her family practices Catholicism. And so you'd think around Christmas time how we would manage bringing everybody together under one purpose as a family. And let me tell you, it's 50, 60, 70, even close to 100 people in the house at one time. And growing up, it just felt like such a beautiful sense of community, of family. And it wasn't until I was older and, you know, became aware of like the division in our religions that I acknowledged, oh, there's a divide, but it's never felt like that. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's really the beautiful thing about what Christmas has always been to me. Mm-hmm. This year's going to look a little different, obviously, but just because it's smaller doesn't mean it's any less full of love. So. Mm-hmm.
You talked about your mom's health, and I know your dad has had some health things too. How has that been for you as a 20-year-old to deal with your parents who, like we all have to deal with parents who begin to age and experience some health difficulties? The children, you know, play a role in taking care of them. And so I'm just curious, as a 20-year-old and in college and all these responsibilities, how do you deal with it?
And as an only child as well.
Oh, yeah. You know, as my parents have gotten older, it's just reminded me of the care they gave me when I was growing up. And it really does remind you that everything comes back full circle eventually. It's been a privilege to take care of my parents. It hasn't felt like an obligation, and it's felt like something I've been happy to do most of the time. You know, like I said, you know, patience is a virtue, but being an only child, growing up with a different family structure, it's not going to feel out of the ordinary. It's going to be something that you grow with. It's not something you learn to deal with necessarily, but, you know, there are moments that do present as more challenging, but it's about adapting. And, you know, as a child, being an only child, I was constantly surrounded by love because I didn't have, you know, siblings to harass me or tackle me. I was strengthened by the lessons I learned in taking care of my family while they were taking care of me. And my dad is handicapped. He was in a really bad car accident when he was younger, before he met my mom. And my mom, being an immigrant, you know, life in America isn't always the easiest. And so growing up, I just learned to navigate those things with my parents. It wasn't exactly like coming in from a place on the outside and seeing into this family. No, I grew up with this family, you know. They helped me grow, and it really takes a village. I'm going to say that, you know, through our parish community. I know my mom feels safe in our parish, and she feels welcomed and she feels celebrated and supported. And the same with my dad, when he was recovering even from his accident, his parents and his family belonged to the parish before my mom and before I even came into the picture. And while he was in recovery, there were points that he's told me, like, I questioned my faith, like I didn't know, what God's plan was for me. And so he had a lot of doubt in his heart. But with Resurrection, with our parish, they really helped build him from the ground up. And, I like to credit this parish for, saving part of his life. And without them, I wouldn't be here even today. And growing up an only child, you are thankful for any help you can get, whether it's from your parents, whether it's from your parish community, whether it's from your neighbors. Even, you learn to see God in so many people and so many faces. And growing up learning about God, even, for example, many of my teachers always pictured him as a man or described him as a man. I never put a face to God. I saw him as this beaming ball of light, and I still see him this way. And that's because he never had a face to me. He was many faces. And that's kind of how I learned how to, I guess, grow in an environment that wasn't always suitable for growth. And so really just like taking any pieces of love that my parents were able to give me, sacrifice for me, and taking those and planting them and growing something bigger out of them. So
you seem as a 20-year-old young woman very connected to your faith, but also connected to this faith community.
Oh yeah.
And you must realize that not all 20-year-olds are connected to their faith necessarily, but particularly faith communities. I'm wondering what that's like for you to be who you are, and yet probably have a lot of friends who are not connected in that way.
Coming, being online for my first year of college was easy to stay connected with my faith community, and going to church, attending different seminars, services with my parents, and going to college for my first in-person year was a real challenge. Every Sunday, my mom would ask me, hey, were you able to make it to church? And I'd have to tell her, I'm like, no, Mom, I'm sorry, I wasn't able to. And I'm not sure if anyone's seen Loyola's Madonna della Strada, but she's beautiful. It made me even wonder, like, why am I not gravitating towards there? Like, I usually went on a Sunday with my family. Then I was like, oh, maybe it's because I'm not with my family, or maybe it's because I'm so busy with other things, but that's never stopped me even when I was home. And so I really had to think about it. And I think I didn't necessarily feel as in touch with myself. And in order to do that, I've always been a very social person. And for some odd reason, I didn't feel as though Loyola, even being a Jesuit school, had a strong faith community. But that's because I just didn't go looking for it. That's because I didn't go looking for it. And that fell on me. And eventually I discovered CLC, which is a learning community at Loyola. They have different learning communities offered, especially catered to like first and second year students who are still trying to find, different niches that they are able to gravitate towards. And CLC is a Christian learning community. And while it is Christian, they do accept, they welcome all, and so being a Catholic, there was a specific group within that CLC, that Christian learning community, where I found a Catholic learning community. And so through this Catholic learning community, we went to Mass together. We prayed the Rosary together, and I felt such a large source of comfort in that, in, finding these people. And this was like really my first introduction to like Loyola as a community. That's kind of when I realized that if I am looking for something, I'm going to have to go out and find it. So, yeah.
Excellent.
One time you had made a comment to me about how you want to be active in your faith, not just sitting.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you did YNIA, service mission trips. You volunteer all over church, which is a beautiful thing. How have you found your way into that service life?
Oh, man. Well, putting faith in action for me has always been about recognizing that there's more than just myself. I would say, like, I had to recognize my privilege even, as a person of color, even in a family that, is not the wealthiest, growing up, it's about like humbling yourself and really seeing something bigger. And through, service work in middle school, through service work in high school, it helped me find a passion for helping others, which is, why I've chosen to, major in what I'm majoring in, psychology, because I know I can do more for others just as much as I can do for myself. And it was, I guess, like through service work and putting my faith in action, I wasn't remaining stagnant, because I knew by standing still, I wouldn't grow, because being a social person, that's how I get my word out. That's how I take God's word and, put it forth in my community, and in doing that in whatever ways I can, whether that's helping someone who's carrying a lot of bags, or if that's smiling at someone, who doesn't have a home, they're living on the street, and if that's even walking a friend home at night. That is how I've learned to put my faith in action, aside from service trips and volunteer organizations. And I guess it's just about how I've been able to spread that, not only in the specific parts of my life that I want it to be, but in parts where it has to be, and in ways that sometimes I don't even recognize until after the fact.
So this podcast is called Revealed, because we really want to show how the sacred is revealed in the ordinary. So how would you say in your life the sacred is revealed?
Like I was saying, it's in people. It's in me, it's in you, it's in you. And even throughout the past month, it's really become clear to me that God does take many forms. I saw God in my mom's ICU nurses. I see God in the professors who granted me that grace, to be with my family and to not think twice about school. I see God in my mom. I see God in my dad. Every now and then, I like to think I see God in myself, but, we're still working on that, and that's okay. I see God in a sunny day when it feels like everything else is just weighing you down, and I see God in the rain, on those days where it's okay to feel sad, it's okay to feel heavy, because there's always a new day, there's always time. I see God in patience, to remind me that even if I don't know where I'm going, I know where I want to be, and I know what it takes to get there, but it also takes patience. And so learning throughout the course of my life that patience is a virtue, from being a little first grader in, Katie's class, to being a full-fledged adult, navigating what I do want to do with my life, which is, a big question to ask. It really is just, I see God in time. I see God in, the minutes between moments. I see God, between the pauses in conversation. I see God in, people who don't smile at me. You just learn to acknowledge that there is goodness in what you might not see it as up front. And you see God everywhere.
Well, Cathy, thank you for being here with us.
Yeah.
It has been a complete honor for me to see you grow into this beautiful...
Stop, you're going to make me cry.
I know, but it is true. And I truly do see God revealed through you. And so thank you for being here and sharing your story.
Thank you, both of you.
Thanks,
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
This has been Revealed, a podcast sponsored by Resurrection Catholic Parish in Green Bay, Wisconsin.